Shabbat Shalom. There are times in our lives when we think that things are good. I'm feeling settled. And then you're ready for that next chapter in life, the one called tranquility. In this week's Torah portion, that idea lasts all of one verse. For Jacob in Vayeshev, one moment he feels settled, the next everything unravels. This contrasts with Jacob's brother Esau. At the end of last week's Parsha, Esau settles and quickly becomes a nation with tribal territory and kings. Not so Jacob. His story takes a turn. The commentary a millennia and a half ago in Rabbi says that Jacob just got his math wrong. He knew of his grandfather Abraham's covenant and conversation with God in chapter 15, where God reveals that there would be 400 years of servitude and turmoil. Jacob just calculated that it had ended, thinking that God didn't really actually mean counting to 400. Some are math people, apparently. Esau's leaving the land signaled to him that all was just to be fine. Modern commentator Aviva Zornberg says that Jacob just fatally misread the structure, the plot, the moral motifs of his own life. Jacob was settled. Jacob sought to settle in peace. And then there leapt upon him the agitation of Joseph. And so let's hear those opening two verses of this portion. Now Jacob was settled in the land where his father had sojourned, the land of Canaan. This then is the line of Jacob. At 17 years of age, Joseph tended the flocks with his brothers as a helper to the sons of his father's wives, Bilhah and Zilpah, and Joseph brought bad reports of them to his father. Whoa, what just happened? Jacob was settled. We barely start to get his legacy, the line of Jacob, and then we have a teenager messing everything up. Joseph was 17 years old and tattling on his brothers. What does one have to do with the other except to say, sorry, Jacob, man plans, God laughs. And speaking of God, God for the first time in Genesis recedes from the headlines in these final 13 chapters, the novella of Joseph. And for the first time, nobody prays in all 13 chapters. No one seeks God. Joseph will at some time say that this was God's plan, and God speaks to Jacob one last time. But even when things get bad, there are no altars set up, no beseeching to the heavens. It is as if there is a maturing of humanity by the closing chapters of Genesis, that we know God is not following our plan and our desires. We are to discern God's plan. At times, seemingly random events help the plot unfold, but we seem to be powerless to change the plot. In the first verse, when Jacob settles, he tries to not be like his father who sojourned. When things don't go as he hoped, though, he doesn't even complain, nor does he pray. He keeps matters in his mind. And when the time comes to act, to sojourn to Egypt, he picks himself up and goes. He acts when it is necessary. Zornberg continues, nevertheless, it is a characteristic of righteous people to fight against this idea. Righteous people seek a settling because they feel like they deserve it. In a midrash, there is a rabbinic text, not in the Torah, where, as I said, there is no prayer, but in the midrash, God rebuffs the yearning in a tone of strange sarcasm. Is it not enough? What is prepared for you in the life to come? Is that not enough for you, O righteous person? In God's rhetoric, the righteous are made to seem importune, almost greedy, their desire for peace in this world wrong-headed, in view of the treasure awaiting them in another world. It is not wrong to settle in peace. It is wrong to seek with too much a need such a settling. Thus the righteous can fall victim to the settling more than those who are not righteous, who don't feel that they deserve peace and tranquility. To step back just a moment, there is a new podcast by the Hartman Institute in Jerusalem called Thoughts and Prayers, reflecting on the question of whether or not prayer works. Rabbi Jessica Fisher is the director of Hartman's Teen and Educational Initiatives, and she says in episode 1 of the hallmarks of modernity is rationalism. And so many of us are eager to find ways to understand this world. Prayer doesn't exactly fit into a logical framework. Many of us aren't sure about our goals when we pray or how to know that our prayers have been heard, or if we even believe in God at all, let alone one who is listening to us. It can be hard to trust that reciting ancient foreign words to address an unseen, unknowable God will affect any real change in our lives, let alone in the world. But many of us do pray, or at least recite words of prayer, hoping we can change the plot. Most of us feel we don't get an answer. Jacob didn't get an answer even in the Midrash. In the actual words of the Torah, he just takes each turn and does what is needed. So having this ability to act when the time comes, to accept the things that are not as we wish them to be, that is the heart of faith. On Sunday night, when we light the first candle for Hanukkah, we will reenact the most important miracle of Hanukkah. Not that the oil lasted for 8 days, but that the priests lit the oil at all, knowing that they had oil only for 1 day. Lighting on that first day is an act of faith. That faith is the reason we are still here, even when we feel unsettled. Can you hear that song?